to the Polish Eagle's Kitchen. I'm your host, Patrick Grabowski. In this episode I will teach you how to make hunter stew, or pronounced in Polish as Bigos. It's a perfect dish to have on a family occasion or at a big party because there's a very good chance that it will fill everybody up. You'll need 1 whole cabbage, 2 pounds of sauerkraut, 1 pound of fresh mushrooms, 1 cup of wild mushrooms, half of a large yellow onion, 1 pound of regular Polish sausage, 1 pound of smoked Polish sausage, half a pound of smoked bacon, 1 pound of roast beef, 1 pound of chicken breast, 4 bay leaves, salt and pepper to your taste, half a teaspoon of organic no salt seasoning, 1 table of tomato, herbs and spices, half a cup of dry red wine, 6 ounces of tomato paste, 1 extra large pot, 1 medium pot, 1 small pot, 1 medium pan, 1 large pan, Now with the whole cabbage, you want to make sure to first cut this in half. And then you want to make sure that you cut the core out right here. So you just simply put the knife on an angle and then take the other side on an angle. Just pops out just like that. And then the way that you want to cut it is first just very thin pieces straight across. And then you want to cut the half into half again, so basically leaving 4 pieces of the cabbage, something like that. You want to make sure that you cut it very thin pieces, just straight across on a slight angle, and something like that, making it. And then you want to get, if you see any of these really big pieces, you just cut it again. Do not use it, it's up to you. And then after that, I prefer to cut it into 3 ways.
into thirds. I'm gonna have the pieces about this big or so, and it's cut up, and then you can put it right away into your extra large pot. Now with the bacon, if you have a long piece like this, it's probably easier to first cut it in half, like that, and then lengthwise, cut it in half again. And then you want to get small squares of it. Now with the chicken, you want to cut it up the same way like the bacon, and you want to have it squares. So I recommend going in lengthwise first, just to measure out. And when you're cutting it lengthways, you want to make sure that each length is about this much in width. Now with the beef, if you have slices like this, so it's a little long. Probably easier to cut it if you cut it in half first, and then lengthwise, just like with the bacon, just like with the chicken. And get little squares of it. And when you're cutting it lengthwise, make sure that your pieces are about this much in width. And then once you finish that up, cut it into little squares. Now with the onion, you want it to have little small squares of it, just like that. So basically what you first do is you slide through and go about 3/4 of the way in there. Then move up every 1/4 of an inch or so. And you want to make sure, then you take it lengthways across and cut it every quarter of the way inch in there. Well, now with the mushrooms, you want to first cut that in half. Put it in about 4 pieces that way, so you can have each mushroom piece. I'm going to leave the pieces a little bit bigger, so you want it to be shown better in the hunter stew. So you want each piece to be about this big. Then once again, so in half. Okay. Now with the sausage, you want to first cut it in half, lengthwise like this. You take one of those pieces and you go cut it across 4 times. You want to get the same square cuts like in your previous meats. Now, what you want to do with the fresh sausage is that you want to place it in a pot and just enough water to cover it. Now with the other sausage, you cut it the same exact way. Now what I did is I put in first the wild mushrooms into this pot and covered it with hot water, just enough water to cover it, just slightly, about that much, and just let it simmer for around 20 minutes or until the mushrooms are extra soft. Now after I cut the cabbage and put it in the extra large pot, I put in just enough water to cover it completely. And then I'm going to bring it to a boil, and after it comes into a boil, I let it simmer for around 5 minutes. Just like that. And then it looks like the mushrooms are ready. The wild mushrooms are ready. And I'm just going to drain the water mushroom, wild mushrooms, just like that. And I'm going to make sure to keep the juice from it because you're going to use it later on. And make sure that you cover the extra large pot completely. And after it's done simmering for about 5 minutes, You want to make sure that you drain out all the water that's in excess. Make sure that you leave the cut cabbage in the extra large pot. Now what you want to do with your sauerkraut before you put it in the pot, you want to make sure that you drain it in cold water. And you take a handful of each time and just lightly squeeze it. Then once the sauerkraut is drained out, I'm going to put and it's placed in a bowl. You want to put in enough warm water just to simply cover it. And then you want to make sure that you bring it to a boil. And once it's to a boil, you want to simmer it for around 5 minutes and then drain it out. Okay? And you want to make sure that you cover it completely. And you want to make sure that you drain out your sauerkraut. And after you let it drain out, you simply put in to the sauerkraut in the same pot that you had the cabbage in. Okay. Now first, when you're going to be cooking up your meat, you want to start with your bacon. The reason why is because you can use the fat for your other meat, so the other meat don't stick to the pan. If you see that it starts to stick to the pan a little bit, you can add a little bit of olive oil, just a tad bit of it. So we're going to use 2 pans right now. About half of it in this pan, and the other half in this one. Maybe close to 2/3 in the bigger one. This is bigger. And we're gonna add the chicken and the roast beef. Now, once the fan is starting to come out, you want to keep the bacon on here for another 30 to 45 seconds. But since I've already done that, simply gonna pour the bacon in here. Put the bacon in there. Put the bacon in there. Put the heat on low. Put it in there. And leave the bacon right here, and the remaining, if there's any, a little bit of fat from it, put in just a little bit of olive oil, just to be sure the meat wouldn't stick in there. Chicken and with your roast beef. Put it on high flame. And you want to cook it until it's about a quarter way done, meaning when the pink is gone from both of them. because you're going to put it in the extra large pot with the cabbage and the sauerkraut for about 3 more hours, and then by then it's definitely going to be fully cooked. Now with the roast beef, it took me around 3 minutes to get the pink out. I cooked it up about anywhere between a third to halfway, and like I said, it took me about 3 minutes, and I then turn off the heat and put it in the pan and put it in the pot. I'm going to wait for the chicken to cook up on the high heat for a little bit longer, since you want to make sure that the chicken at the end, when the hunter stew is fully ready, the chicken is fully cooked. Chicken takes a little bit longer. Now the chicken took a minute longer than the roast beef, so around 4 minutes till the pink is gone. And turn off the heat, and you can put the chicken in the extra large pot. Now after you put in the chicken, the roast beef, with the cabbage and the sauerkraut, make sure that you mix it as best as possible. And after you thoroughly mix it, you can put it on very low heat, the lowest you have. And once you cover it down and you put it on the lowest heat possible, this is when the 2-hour mark starts. So, and then later on, we're going to put in the sausage and the other vegetables with the dry wine. Now with both of the sausages, one thing that you want to remember is that no butter, no oil is necessary to put in the pan, because just like bacon, the sausage already has fatness coming out and it won't stick to the pan. And just like with the chicken and the roast beef, we're going to cook it until the pink is out of this one, and this one changes a little bit of color. The pink is out. Okay. Now the fresh sausage is ready, good to go, so you can turn that off, and that took around 3 minutes. And then you can just put that in the pot. I'm going to let the smoked sausage go for a little bit longer. Now the smoked sausage took around 4 minutes, and as you can see that it changed a little bit of color. Once you see it change into about that, it's ready to go. You turn that off. And simply put it in your pot. And you just mix it thoroughly, everything in there. Now we have both of the sausages in there, the chicken, the roast beef, the cabbage, and the sauerkraut. And it's been cooking up on very low heat for around 15 minutes now. And you just want to mix thoroughly through it one more time. And you want to look at the bottom to see if you have any if it's sticking onto it, or if you have, which most likely, like you should see that you have water on the bottom, because you're going to have extract of water coming in from the sauerkraut, the sausages, a little bit of everything. So you'd have a little bit of water at the bottom from all of that. Now, at this time, about 15 minutes later, like I said, it's been cooking, you can put in 1 cup of the juice from the wild mushrooms that we cooked up earlier. Or if you don't have the wild mushrooms, you can just use simply 1 cup of tap water. And just pour it in there. And make sure to mix thoroughly. And about 5 minutes later, after you put in the juice from the wild mushroom, I'm going to put in the rest of your bacon in there. And of course, as usual, when you put in a new thing in there, mix thoroughly. And as usual, after mixing thoroughly, when it's cooking up for around 2 hours, you always want to make sure to always leave it closed. And you want to make sure that you occasionally check on it and mix thoroughly. Reach from the bottom and pick it up on the top and drop it back in there. Okay. Now with the mushrooms, when you're going to be cooking it, you're going to put in a tad bit of oil, olive oil in there. Put in your mushrooms. Just like that. You're going to cook it. You're going to cook the mushrooms until, see that white part is going to start to turn lightly brown, and then that's when you know it's ready. Okay. Now the mushrooms have been cooking on here for around 3 minutes. As you can see that they change into a lightly brown color. That's when it's ready to put in. And I'm putting it in the pot around 45 minutes. It's been cooking on here. That's when I put in the mushrooms in there. Around 45 minutes into it cooking in here. Okay. Now for the final vegetable, onion, put in a tad bit of olive oil in there. Put in your onions in there. And put it on high heat. You're gonna cook the onions. So they're gonna come to a light golden color. Okay, so you can see that the onions have turned into lightly golden brownish color to it. That's when it's ready to come out. And around 15 minutes of the hunter stew cooking in there. 15 minutes into it, you put in your onions. And as usual, you want to make sure that you mix thoroughly in there. Mix it thoroughly in there. And always cover it. Okay. Now, around an hour into it cooking, you want to put in your dry red wine and your tomato paste. And of course, mix thoroughly in there and then cover it afterward. Okay, this is an hour and 5 minutes into it cooking in here. You just want to make sure how your progress is doing. This is about how you want it to look like. You want it to be a little bit red, obviously, from the tomato paste. You want to feel it just a little bit for the cabbage to be a little bit soft, the meats to be about halfway cooked or a little bit more, and the mushrooms to be a little soft too. And obviously mix thoroughly in there. And this is, the progress is looking very good. Now, about an hour and 10 minutes that it's been cooking in there, I would put in about 1.5 tablespoons of salt and about half a tablespoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of organic no salt seasoning, and 1.5 tablespoons of your tomato, herbs, and spices mixture, and 4 bay leaves in there, and make sure you mix that thoroughly. Okay. Now, since we've added everything and it's been cooking it up here for an hour and 10 minutes, should let it cook up covered for at least 50 minutes, possibly a little bit longer. And you want to occasionally check in to make sure that you have some liquid on the bottom of it for it not to stick in. If you see that you're losing a lot of water, which most likely will not be the case, just add in a little bit of water in there, about a quarter of a cup or so, and make sure you mix thoroughly on occasion, and always leave it covered. Seems as if the Bigos is ready, and I'm going to give it one more try of it. It tastes really good. You can really taste all the cabbage, the sauerkraut, and the sauce, the protein, and the vegetables, the juice from all of it, and the spices, and the extra flavor kick that the tomato paste gives makes it a lot better. For the final presentation, my favorite way of eating it is with beer and a side of bread. And the best way to eat it is in a bowl. And as you can see, that to make it look better, I put in 4 mushrooms around in a circle and 3 thin strips of tomatoes right in the middle, right there. Thank you for watching the Polish Eagle's Kitchen. I hope your hunter stew will explode with flavor. Make sure to eat it with an empty stomach, because most likely it will fill you up. Goodbye and do widzenia.